love the sound of crickets at night. Well, here it is, August the 14th, and not a mosquito in sight. And it's about 10 o'clock in the evening, and I'm just enjoying some relaxation time after going through my day of activities. I started off this morning, smoked a couple of doobies, had a pot of coffee, didn't have time to have breakfast, so I got picked up in town by the community transportation service, which takes me to Coburg, and from there I went to my Coburg Taekwondo class for an hour. That was nice. And after the class, having gotten a good workout in, I went down to the mall for a while. And what else did I do? Oh yeah, I smoked a vaporizer load down there. Out of sight, out of mind. Back in the mall, had some sweets, got some coffee, got a few groceries, and then picked up my ride back home. So here I am back home, and I just finished cleaning my grow room from top to bottom. So important. I'm just getting myself ready for my next crop. I can't wait to get that going. I've already got some clones cut. And you know, I've got about 5 different strains going right now outside, so I want to get at least a mother from each one of those to keep them going, because I'm pretty impressed with how they're turning out, and keep those going through the winter. So I've got some variety for next season, and then I've got some I can grow indoors as well on tables. I'm learning more and more all the time as I practice my hobby, which is now turning into something pretty awesome because of the way the laws have been changing and the acceptability of marijuana as a medicine, as well as a relatively harmless recreational substance. And now, as it turns out, after the government has been introducing Bill C-45, they dropped the ball, having failed to mention anything about First Nations on the table when they made the regulations. And I can only assume because they dropped the ball in that because they could have had us as part of the regulation process. I don't think it would have been a good thing for us First Nations people, but because it's my belief that the government's going to use Monsanto, laboratory GMO types of strains I call Frankenweed. It's not going to be as good as what's out there now, and it's going to be designed so it's not possible to reproduce it. You'd have to keep buying the seeds. It wouldn't be clonable. That's my guess. This is just my guess, but it's more than likely because they want to completely control the market, control the distribution. There's no other way than that. I mean, I know Monsanto's getting on board with the whole industry. It's not looking good as far as that end of the distribution process. Well, fortunately for First Nations people and any of the First Nations reservations that decide to utilize the right to self-determination and self-government, because that is our right after all. More details about that can be learned on TokingTeepee.com, and how First Nations are going to be able to, and not only going to be able to, are presently exercising our rights to self-government and self-regulation of the marijuana industry on our land. The funny thing I learned about this whole the self-government thing, and the reason why we have rights, the reason we're entitled to have our own government, is because right from the time we became colonialized, as it turns out, The Queen already recognized us as being the sovereign keepers of this land, and any land acquisitions or deals that were made from that point onward would be made through by way of treaties, through which are a legal process, and both sides of the treaties need to be honored and respected. So here we sit. That hasn't always been the case, and that's why sometimes there's some settlements being given out. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Alderville end up on the map as a world-class producer of marijuana, medicinal as well as recreational. And the only thing that's kind of a bummer, unless we can get something changed, is that maybe not in Ontario so much. We got a little bit more of a liberal or a decent, I guess, premier here, Ford at the time. It sounds like he's going to allow a little bit more leeway as to how we, the people, decide to distribute marijuana and run the industry. So we'll see how that turns out. But in the meantime, we hope First Nations have gotten a good head start in their game. And Alderville, we've already got 5 cannabis dispensaries going at present. And I'd like to encourage more residents to get involved with becoming a producer, because it's a lucrative way to go. We can really add an economy to Alderville that wasn't there before, and it's already happening now, and it's just going to happen more so in the near future. Well, that's about all I have to say about that part of it. Right now I'm working on my outdoor. It gets problems, but they're fixable. I've had some stuff called blight, which affects the leaves. They get these little spots. It's a certain type of one, and it winters, and then it comes back the next year. Well, I just found out that's what happens, right? And you have to take the leaves off that have these brown spots on them, and then you have to spray it all with in order to naturally get rid of them. I had to make a mix of water with a little bit of dish soap, a little bit of vegetable oil, and some baking powder, and spray them, liberally with it. And I'm gonna have to do that treatment again tomorrow, because I don't want to have to keep taking leaves off. So, I've noticed after taking the leaves off, even on some of the other, it's probably because, like, as I'm removing the leaves, some of the whatever the blight is has some type of thing that attaches itself to other leaves, so it probably caused it to spread more by removing the leaves. And I'm not sure if that was the greatest idea, but so the next step is just because I don't want to have to keep taking leaves off. I went through this last year and they did fine. It turns out I talked to I get some advice from some very knowledgeable people, and it turns out that this particular condition doesn't affect the flowers at all. So you just got to stay on top of it until they get to the flowering stage, and then it gets to a certain point where I'm safe to remove a lot more leaves, and they don't need as many leaves. And a lot of people might differ on that, but there's a lot less problems. I really put a lot of work into my outdoor plants. Like, I do pruning inside and out. On the inside, I like to remove the inside shoots, the lower shoots, anything that's laying on the ground, because it just brings problems into the whole plant that start from the ground up. So I like to keep it nicely trimmed, and then the parts that aren't going to get much sun, I just take them out of the game altogether, because the amount of bud that it ends up producing has more to do with how much root there is than anything. And so it's just going to redirect its potential into the remaining parts of the plant. It just means you're going to have bigger tops. So if it loses anything, it's worth the loss because of the elimination of problems that you're getting rid of. So some people might argue that taking leaves off might affect your yield. If you're under perfect conditions where you can tie every single branch down, and because they're continuously putting up new shoots, and then you got all the underbrush. If you're not taking something off, you're going to eventually run into problems. That's what cultivating is. Cultivating is selective pruning. You're controlling which parts of the plant get sun and airflow, You're preventing leaves from overlapping on each other. There's just so many reasons why you have to make that part of your regime when it comes to even growing indoors or outdoors. It doesn't matter. I've looked at people that uh, think that's wrong, but I don't even know if they've actually grown a lot of plants to be able to make that claim, because I can make that claim myself. I'm gonna go inside right now because for some reason I don't know if I don't think it's mosquitoes, and I hope it's not because I don't feel like getting eaten. But I'm in my porch and have the light on, so if I do get a rush of mosquitoes, at least I'll see them coming. So far, no. I think I'm just getting the odd moth coming and bugging me. But it's been over 10 minutes now. I'm trying to keep 10-minute videos going for my YouTube channel, Toking Teepee, and I'll be doing some more in the near future. Hopefully I'll be able to do one a day. I'll just see how much energy and time I have. I just have so much on my plate right now. But this is an introductory video, and it's good to talk to anybody that's listening. You just have a great day, and have a smoke a fatty on me. See ya.